The too long didn't watch version of this guide is go to complex, and then when you call the elevator on Malice, go over here, put yourself to 100%, push yourself against the gunners. They can be scab gunners, but they can also be scab shotgunners, and then explode yourself. And typically they spawn in groups of 3 or 4, and voila, you get it. Stick around if you want more information, but here's the feats that I used. I also suggest you use something like gunner resistance on your trinkets. You don't have to do that, but it's very much suggested. There are some other feats that I haven't unlocked yet, but I would suggest the following if I had the option. Stick around if you want more information. Here are the feats that I've used during this mission. I'm going to briefly explain why I think some of these feats are better, but to explain, I've used these feats. These are ones I've unlocked. Most of the people that I assume that are going to do this mission are already level 30, but if you aren't, I suggest getting at least to level 20, so you can unlock this one. This one just allows you to get more toughness over time. It's really good. This one isn't necessary, so you can disable that. If you didn't know, you can disable it, right click. I digress. This is a feat that is really good in the way that it allows you to get more warp charges. More warp charges means that you are going to deal more damage. Not massively, it's basically if you are at 4 warp charges, you'll deal 12% more damage. If you are at 16 warp charge, if you are at 6 warp charges, you're going to deal 18% more damage. But yeah, it's a trivial amount in the grand scheme of things, but I suggest that. This one's very important because it allows you to get more toughness. Again, you know, toughness reduction. It's a very good way to ensure that you will not die instantly the moment that you're faced with a shotgunner up close or a whichever one is going to melee you. So I highly suggest that. If you do have these unlocked, I suggest you getting warp battery, and I suggest you get the kinetic barrage if you are going to do this at level 30 and you know beyond. This just allows you to get more warp charges, and this one allows you to get warp charges earlier when you're going to prepare for the mission by doing a lot more brain bursts. To briefly go over why I'm not suggesting other ones, basically it's just these are just like for preference. This is the best option to get more toughness over time. You can even do a warp charge that you get right before you get to the shotgunners that you are going to kill, the gunners that you are going to kill, and you still have some toughness that are going to be replenishing. I know 5 seconds is not a lot, but 30% is a genuine big amount. This one is just a better option because this one will sabotage you. Peril resistance is something that's going to make things more difficult. Do not do it. And this one is an option for you if you want to lower the HP of the enemies by dealing a bit more damage. That is an option. Just be careful that you do not kill them. So this is an option if you want to do it. The likelihood that you are killing an elite and then with Soul Blaze, it's going to be lower. I don't think that if you are going to explode people, this is going to count if you kill someone with Soul Blaze. If, like, for example, in my scenario where an extra shotgunner lived and they were hit by Soul Blaze, for example, I don't think it's going to count. I haven't tested that. I'm not going to test that with a new Steam account or anything like that, but I'm not going to go into that. You can use this if you want to push a little bit further, a little bit quicker, to ensure that they are unstable and that they do not walk away. But do know that if you are going to push enemies with your ability, that they might also be pushed further away. So be careful with that. This is not something that I'd recommend because it's just not going to benefit you at all, so ignore this. This is something I don't suggest purely because the moment that you are above critical peril, which is, I don't know what number that is, I suspect 70% or higher, is going to go into your stamina, so it's not really going to benefit you, let alone this feat is perfect for this, so that you can survive shotgun blast or melee hits. And this one is just straight up useless. Kinetic Overshield, this is also pretty nice in the sense that you might be able to deal a bit more damage to your enemies. So that they might have lower HP. That is an option. I suggest having more damage in general with the warp charges, but this is an option. Kinetic Flare, this is not really going to help you that much, other than you might get more brain burst. I mean, more warp charges. Of course, that would be at 4 warp charges then, rather than the 6 warp charges. But it is a way to get yourself to that a more guaranteed 12% extra damage rather than 18% extra damage. And these two options I would not suggest, because they are going to expand your warp charges. You want those warp charges in the scenario that you have the luxury for them. If you do not have warp charges, like I did in my example, that is an option that will still help. But then again, I highly suggest getting warp charges if you can prepare. If you can't prepare, then whatever, this might still be helpful. This also means that you can push them a little bit sooner and to get them into a location that is more comfortable for you. This is also a way to get more soul blades onto your enemies, to make them have less HP so that they might die sooner. It is an option. I personally haven't used it, and I don't suggest it as the very first option, but it might be something that you want to take advantage of in case you're desperate and you want to try something different. I'm going to quickly go over Curios. Because in this scenario, I don't have all Curios enabled. If you do want to try this Penance, I highly suggest, once again, that you go up to level 25 at the very least. Level 30 is not necessary, but I suspect most people are. But at the very least 25, because you have 3 Curios, and you have these Feats. This is the chest piece that you unlock, by the way, just so you're aware. Anyway, these are the Curios that I have currently. I highly suggest that you get a Curio with toughness. You can get extra wounds if you want more retries and go to the healing station, but I honestly suggest get as much toughness as possible. Not HP, so not maximum high HP, get toughness. Because once again, as I showcased with the very first feat, this is 30%, this is 30% toughness. Come on. This is 30% toughness, there you go, of the whole thing. Not just 30% of your 100%, your 100 toughness that's you have at the very beginning, like as a base character. No, if you have 3 trinkets, which give you 10% toughness each, you will get that extra 30%, which accounts for that 130 toughness. I'm not going to go into detail what kind of number that is, because I cannot be asked to calculate that right now. Sorry. If you're going to go for perks, I highly suggest getting perks as high as possible with gunner resistance. This is the best way for you to ensure that you will survive more incoming blasts. I already blessed these perks. I had different Curios. When I did the mission itself, I had two Curios with damage reduction, one being 10% and the other being 15% damage reduction. The higher level you are, the more resources you have to re-bless your items, but also the higher chance that you have perks that have 3 dots. So in this case, 1 dot has 5% chance. It's also 5 rating. Then you have the 2 dots, which is it's 10 rating. Then you have 10% for 2 dots, 50% for 3 dots, and the best case scenario, you have 3 trinkets with 4 dots for a whopping 20% damage resistance to gunners. Once again, this really helps with the other feat that is showcased here for more damage reduction to your toughness. As you saw, I was getting HP damage at the very end of it, but if I didn't have damage reduction prior, I most likely would have died and wouldn't have even exploded in that case. So if you have the luxury to get the maximum level Curios for damage reduction, you can have 60%, that is 60, and 33% toughness, because you're going to be at 101, or just 100 Peril, which is 33%. That is a whopping 39% damage reduction to your toughness. So if you're level 30 or something like that, you can get that. Having also an increased toughness, which can typically, if you go to the store at level 30, based on my other characters, you get 60% toughness. If you go to Sire Milk, you might be able to get a Curio, which is 70% toughness, but don't gamble on it. It's not really going to happen that often with 3 whole Curios. If you have a purple Curio, it allows you to have 2 perks. And if you have a legendary one, or whatever it's called, you have 3 perks. But if you have the luxury to get a toughness 5 and gunner 20, or as high as possible as you can, so maybe 4% and 50%, so that would be great. That would be the best way to prepare, but I understand you might not get that, because that's just the way this game is made, because FOMO and gambling and yay, making sure people play for way too long. Anyway, I digress. I'm going to go to the meat grinder and showcase you a little bit about the explosion itself and how that is working out. So currently we are in the meat grinder with Malice difficulty, and I'm going to showcase that, you know, how much HP these enemies have. So the unarmored scab gunners have 700, these have 600. These are the ones that you're most likely going to face, these scab gunners, or you're going to face the scab shotgunners that we have here. Both of these shotgunners have 500 HP. Essentially what we want is to either have these enemies or those enemies as the ones that we will fight in a group of 3 or 4. I'm going to start exploding myself, and as you can see, they die from close up. So that's 500 HP done. The further away you are from enemy, the less damage they will take. As you can see, these two did not die, despite being relatively close up. So they have still quite a bit of HP left. This is why these two are great options to fight against, in the same vein that these are also a very good way to fight. These have more HP, these unarmed ones, but I do not suggest you go against these. Again, if you're going to do complex, you're most likely only going to face these ones or these ones. But there is a chance for you to fight these and these. I'm going to set myself on a location which is relatively easy to track. But I currently have 4 warp charges, and I'm going to put myself on over 100%. A good way to do this, if you want to prep, as you saw in the very first clip of the video, is just to swap between your staff and your sword. Put yourself on 100 and then just shoot. And I have 4 warp charges. Warp charges barely ran out right after the explosion. But as you saw, that did not kill, despite me being decently close up. I'm going to reset the location. But as you can see, that did not kill. That did about 400 damage, a little bit less even. So yeah, I suggest getting as close up as possible. I'm going to run my warp charge out to even showcase how little damage you do when your warp charges aren't present. Again, your warp charges increases the damage that you do by 12% or 80% depending if you have 4 or 6. It can sometimes be difficult to get many warp charges, especially because when you call your elevator, you're going to run out of enemies that you can fight. I'm going to trigger the ability. As you can see, I dealt even less damage. In this case, I dealt 40% less damage. The difference between the warp charges is not massive, but it is prevalent. And again, in a situation where you want to ensure that you kill as much as possible, you just want to get as close as possible as you can. Get in the group in the middle of them. Let's just pretend these two are ones that are available. These gunners. I had 3 warp charges, but I both killed them because I was decently close enough. One thing I have to point out is that these options, I tried it, they do not make a difference. The Force Sword or the Staff perks to increase the damage does not change because it's purely based on the warp explosion damage that you do. So either the Soul Blaze that you do when you brain burst someone and you burst the elites from close by with this feat, or the ones that you get from this feat are options that you can have, which make you do a little bit of extra more Soul Blaze damage, which can put them on lower HP. But again, it really is it really is just dependable on, do you want to lower their HP even further, or do you think it's a better idea to just focus on getting as much warp charge as possible? Here's a scenario where it did actually happen. I'm going to first showcase how it messed up. There are many times when I've tried this challenge, about 6 or 7 times. I know there are people that have tried this a lot more, But as you can see here, there's a bunch of scab gunners, but they're way too separated from each other. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? Do I bait them close to each other? I try to just, you know, tough it up to make sure that I don't die. I just burst this one person, and I just want to say, okay, are they close enough? Yeah, that one in the back is going to run closer. So here you go. They're a bit closer now, and then they're too far away. It just doesn't happen. I didn't end up killing anybody, which is very unfortunate. One was too far away, the other was also just running away. And one was way too far away. It just didn't happen. This is after we've called the elevator, by the way. They will spawn during the segment prior, but we did this after the elevator charge. I suggest communicating with teammates. If you have friends, do it together. Use voice chat, for example. But again, here's how I tried to do it again. I messed up, I swung the staff. And because I swung the staff, I just wasn't able to get all three of them. So make sure that if you're going to spam the special ability for your sword and switch back to the staff, do not use your special ability of your staff, because you are going to swing. Also, one thing to note, if Complex, this mission, you're very close to a healing station. So it's a perfect way to get your wounds back. If you have trinkets with extra wounds, that's an option as well. Again, we talked prior about me suggesting that you get toughness Curios. Again, Curios, not trinkets. So here we go back. Hopefully we get another group of enemies. And it's like, they are not spawning. Thankfully, they do respawn. So there you go. Got a bunch of scab gunners. I put myself at 99% and shoot the staff twice. So I'm just pushing myself closer and closer and closer to them, and then we go. As you saw in the example at the very beginning of the video, I got it. In this case, one of the gunners even survived. So that's a good example of how it's very reliant on you getting as close as possible to them to ensure that they die. And also a showcase of how having more toughness and more gunner resistance is a great way to ensure that you do not die before the explosion happens. Again, with more warp charges, you will do more damage. Also, if you were in a situation where you communicate with your teammates, if you do have a scenario where you communicate with your teammates, with randos, do it via voice chat, for example, or text chat, making sure that they are aware of the situation, that they are on board. And in general, it's just a great way to ensure that you actually get it. If you are going to play with friends, getting Ogrins, for example, with shields is a great way to push them back, or, you know, to ensure that they don't die. You can just push the enemies backwards and just stun them, put them in the place, and it's just that would be a better way to do it. But if you're going to do the randoms, communicate with them, you're going to be fine. If you do not communicate, you might have a situation like this. Yes, I fucked up myself, and I did blame it on the one random. It's not their fault, they came in later, I did not communicate enough, that's my fault. Again, it's your own fault if you do not communicate with your teammates. Another example is here, I pushed with the staff. As you can see, I could have exploded myself way earlier if I just shot the staff a few times. If I didn't was too flustered to mess up the situation and whatnot. In this scenario, we did not attempt it again, and yeah, it didn't just work out. Mostly because I just didn't communicate. So once again, communicate with your teammates. Make sure that they know well in advance, maybe prior to the mission, during the loading screen, or after you spawn in the mission, what you're going to be doing. Here's an example how during other parts of this mission, you'll still get, for example, scab shotgunners. They are less likely to be grouped up together. In this case, here's one scab gunner and there are two scab gunners very close by. So yes, there's absolutely a possibility to do this on other missions, but you're just less likely to get it done. But yeah, in a rare situation where you are playing together with people that actually want to communicate, you are able to get 3 elites closed up together if you just push them together. So we went over a lot of information so far, and I understand that might be a bit overwhelming. Totally understand that. If you are going to do this with teammates, maybe show them the very first part of this video. You don't have to make them watch the full guide. They don't have to understand that unless they also want to do this achievement. Currently only 1.1% of Steam users have this achievement. I suspect that might actually be a lower amount of people that have the Penance, because some people use an achievement unlocker. I know, I use it too for some stuff. But to actually get the reward, the chest piece, I suspect only 1% of people have done it. The reason it's such a low percentage is because it's infuriating to get. This mission, the complex mission, didn't even come with the launch of the game. It wasn't something which was present there. As well as just that the radius of the explosion is pretty low, and the explosion damage is also pretty low. Fat Shark is notorious for having some weird balancing stuff here and there when it came to Vermintide, but this is a great example of one of these achievements which should be way easier, but for some reason is super difficult, despite it being the Malice difficulty tier and not a heresy difficulty tier type of achievement. So if you're frustrated with getting this achievement, that's understandable. It's very difficult and only a very few amount of people have it. I do not plan to make more guides on Darktide. I don't think so that I'm going to do that. So you do not have to subscribe. If you want to like or perhaps leave a comment on any other tips that you have, or even just, thanks, I don't really give a shit. Other people might benefit from that because it helps push the video with the algorithm. And the more people that see this, the more people will get the penance. I mean, if you have a Darktide channel, Discord, perhaps pop it there. And hey, what's up if someone has actually shared this video? I appreciate that if you've watched this. But all in all, it's difficult. Good luck. Be patient. Communicate with your teammates. And prepare carefully. Alright. Also, here's a bonus tip of the game being kind of weird later that match. Alright. Have a good one, good folks.